BioWare just finished their first scheduled marketing run last week, and as a result, many people are replaying the Dragon Age series. I am currently on Dragon Age 2. I have started Mark of the Assassin, and I'm on Act 3. So I am blasting through the series. And I'm sure a bunch of new people started getting into this series because it just went on sale for 90% off all three of the games, so you could buy all three games for about $10, which is such a steal. I hope if you're interested, you're able to take advantage of it, but if you're still on the fence, these games do go on sale quite often, and I highly recommend playing them. This is in no way going to be a comprehensive view of the games. I'm not going to go that deep into gameplay mechanics because my love for the game has gone way past just gameplay. Of course, I will touch upon it because at the end of the day, they are video games and the game aspect is an important part of it. But this video is going to be a net positive because I really love different aspects of each of the games, and I don't necessarily have a favorite. I do, but like it's purely out of a personal bias, you know. I will definitely mention certain aspects of the game that I feel need to be brought up because it affects the overall experience. I'm going to keep this spoiler free, though if I do include gameplay clips, there might be minor spoilers. No Inquisition gameplay though, because I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm going to start with what I like overall about the series, and then dive deeper into each game. Overall, as much as everyone wants to say that BioWare has died, I have never believed in it, because as much as it has changed, BioWare has crafted a world that has so much depth and intrigue that I have fallen in love with. People are recommending to only play Inquisition and Trespasser before Veilguard, and to an extent I agree, but also I don't. If you are really interested in the world of Thetis and just everything about Dragon Age as a whole, I would highly recommend playing all three of the games. If you don't care about the history and all that, then yes, just play Inquisition and Trespasser, but I really recommend playing Origins and 2 because it just adds a lot of context to the world. There's also just such a huge joy in playing through all of these games and creating your own world state that is so satisfying to go through. Seeing how your actions affect the world moving forward, even if it's just in small references here and there, is just great. It's great. I don't know how else to describe it. Seeing major reoccurring NPCs just hits so much more when you learn their history and their backstory and what they've been doing in the world so far. Though when you really get into it, you realize that the timeline is all over the place, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Along with the lore of Dragon Age, I just really love the companions. The companions are an iconic part of any BioWare game, and it's just so fun to journey with all of these companions and see what they believe in and how they react to your actions, how they interact with each other. I love switching them out for certain missions and seeing how they interact with one another through banter, and it just feels like no matter what Dragon Age game you're playing, you will find at least one character who you will love and obsess over. As you can probably tell, I am a lover of the narrative. I have always played games mostly for the story, and if there's good gameplay, great, but it's not necessarily something that I look for. But as I said, I will touch upon the gameplay. It will be a little bit in the future sections when I go into each game and what I like about them. But if you do happen to play through all three games, you realize that the gameplay does shift a lot as time goes on. I love the dialogue for the Warden in Dragon Age Origins. This also ties into another thing I love about Origins, which is the Origins. The combination of Origins and the ability to pick from a numbered list of dialogue options really give you the ability to create a more nuanced Warden. The Origins give you a snapshot of each player character's life before they become a Grey Warden, and you're able to see how they were and how they live to an extent, and you can sort of build your character off of that and how they would react to becoming Grey Warden and having to save the world from a blight. The origin stories are very short, but they really do pack a punch. And my favorite is the City Elf origin. If you played it, you know why it's so iconic. I haven't played it yet, but I also heard that the Noble Dwarf origin is one of the best in the series. Overall, it feels very dynamic, and I think this is one of the strongest points of Dragon Age Origins. This game also has really great role-playing mechanics. If you decide to go one place over the other, you will see things start to shift, and you'll see how it affects the outcome of that certain place. The way your companions react to your actions can vary. Some may leave and some may betray you. Overall, it's so fun to go through, and it really leans towards replayability. This game is real-time with pause, and you're able to adjust the tactics in the tactics menu. And it's very detailed. Like, you can go into such detail over what do you want the characters to do. It's one thing that a lot of people who were into gameplay love about Origins, and it is very in-depth. If you like messing around with this type of stuff, you'll have a blast with it. One of the big cons to Origins is that it's pretty much required to mod it for it to run well on the PC. There are many guides on the internet and YouTube on what you need, but it's probably going to be the main blocking point for people who want to play this game. It may work for you unmodded at first, but after a while it will most likely crash. I believe there's like memory leak issues or something. I have it on PS3, but I haven't tried it yet because I just really enjoy playing on the PC. Dragon Age 2 overall had a very troubled development of only 16 months, which is insane. The shortened time frame really shows in the amount of content that's in the base game of Dragon Age 2, and it becomes very apparent once you're playing through the game and you see the repeated map designs. There is heavy reuse of maps in this, and you'll realize you've been in the same cave or the same underground lair many times. But where it lacks in this aspect, I believe that the strongest aspect of Dragon Age 2 is within their story and the characters. I know I mentioned those aspects as why I love the series overall, but I think it is really the strongest in Dragon Age 2, and it shines a lot. The story is much more self-contained, and we don't get the option to change race, which made people a little mad. We follow either Marion or Garrett Hawk, depending on what gender you pick. We follow their family as they're trying to escape Lothering, which is the first town the Warden visits in Dragon Age Origins. The Blight has run people out, and everyone is heading to Kirkwall to escape it, but the Hawks have to pretty much go into indentured servitude to even get in. This game is very different from Origins because it is a much more self-contained story about this one character, their family, and the people they meet along the way. They are mostly just one person trying to keep this city-state they live in now from falling apart. You follow Hawk and their friends between 931 and 937, which is how they keep track of years in Thetis. So it's 6 years. And it's such an interesting way to portray their life. You really get to see the characters grow along with each other, and it takes a lot of listening and interacting with these characters' side content to be able to really see how these people interact with one another. I love switching out the companions because seeing how they interact with different people is hilarious. Sometimes you'll see characters begin to understand each other, and sometimes you'll see that after 6 years, these people still don't like each other at all. The banter in this game is probably the harshest out of the three. People think Alistair and Morrigan from Origins are at each other's throats, but the banter in 2 is straight up mean and cruel sometimes. Everyone is so dedicated to their personal beliefs and morals that they become highly judgmental of other people that don't believe in it, and it's very dynamic and a little bit baffling to listen to at times. I also think Dragon Age 2 does a great job of showing more of the Templar-Mage conflict. You see a lot of examples of Templars doing horrible things, And you're also able to see how mages are susceptible to certain influence just because of the way they were born, which is really sad actually to see it happen. But at the end, you really see like these two people as being pushed to some pretty extreme means for various different reasons. Also, the Kunari in this game are my favorite. They have my favorite design, and the Arashok is iconic, and you really get to learn more about the Kun and the Kunari in this game and what they stand for. You get a little bit from Sten in Origins, but I feel like the Arashok is such a good example of a Kunari, and he is literally a leader in the Kun that it just really clears some stuff up if you weren't clear on it before. The gameplay in this simplifies the abilities and Origins, and it's split into upgrade trees now where you can have different specializations. There are still tactics in the game, but they are slightly streamlined, or maybe a lot streamlined. Like I said, I'm not really that good with these type of things, but I enjoy how fast the gameplay is in Dragon Age 2. Lastly, playing Inquisition after this game is really satisfying because it's pretty much a direct tie-in. Dragon Age Inquisition is actually my favorite Dragon Age game. I love this game. It is my favorite partially because it was my first, and also I am very attached to the cast. Gameplay I don't have much to say on, I'll be fully honest. It's very streamlined, which a lot of people don't like. I don't mind it, because I'm only here for the story. Though it does feel a lot slower than Dragon Age 2, which can arguably make it feel very slow to go through in the open world. I do think that this game is a perfect podcast game though. But then you have to pause the podcast to listen to banter, which would sort of suck, so maybe it's not a good podcast game. I want to start with talking about the cast. Some people believe this cast is the weakest, but I disagree. I love this cast, and I think you get a wide variety of people. Through these people, you get to see their reactions and events to Dragon Age 2. You get to see their reactions to the different political movements happening and the current culture in Thedas. We have our first companion from Tevinter, Dorian. Correction, Fenris is our first companion to be from Tevinter. You can argue semantics of where he's from once you get through his backstory, but he has lived in Tevinter most of his life, and he has experienced mostly negative aspects of it. Dorian shows us the more positive aspects that we don't see through the eyes of people from Ferelden and Orlais, who has a completely different view on magic than Orlais and Ferelden. And then we have a companion that comes straight from the Circle, which is Vivian, who is arguably in a more privileged position than a lot of the other mages. When you listen to those two talk, you get very interesting conversations about magic. And let's not get started when Solus starts to join in on the magic conversation. I really enjoy each of their stories and their history and a lot of their interactions with one another. My favorite banters come from this game because they're really thought-provoking. I love the banters in 2, but I'll admit sometimes it gets a little bit one-note, especially between a certain mage and a warrior. It's just like, can we please, like, I get it, you guys hate each other. I love you both, but you guys hate each other, and it's the same thing. I feel like there's much more dynamic conversations, and you really get to see people just growing with each other and coming to understand each other more, and Varric and Solus do have some of the best dialogue, and it's just so good to listen to, and I just can't wait to replay it. I'm so excited. Without going too deep into spoilers, I really love how you can see the direct result of what happened in Dragon Age 2 in this game. And if you listen to the dialogue in the game, you really understand how the actions in 2 affected people negatively and positively. It's a lot of chaos. Overall, the actions in the previous game really lead to a lot of political strife happening in Inquisition. But along with that, there's also outside forces causing giant rifts in the sky to appear, which the Inquisitor has to solve. In this game, they bring back the ability to choose a specific race, and I personally find it so compelling to play as someone that doesn't believe in the Chantry or Andraste. This is completely like personal gameplay stuff at this point, and what I like to do. I don't know if this will get you to play the game, but this is just me rambling now. The Chantry is pretty much Thaddeus's majority religion, but there are other races that don't necessarily believe in the Chantry. And at the beginning of Inquisition, you end up becoming a political and religious figurehead for the Chantry. And it's so fun to play as another race because you could just be like, I don't really believe in any of this. I don't believe that I am the Herald of Andraste. And your advisors will be like, okay, but just don't tell anyone that. We'll just keep that hidden. Okay. Like, we're just gonna pretend you didn't say that and market you completely differently. You're pretty much told you have to play the part anyway for the sake of Thaddeus as a whole. And it's very similar to how the Warden gets thrust into this role because it's either that or die, and they might die anyway. The Inquisitor can end up getting thrust into the role and they don't even believe in it religiously, and they have to do it to save the world. I think this game really shows the best of the overarching themes in Dragon Age, which is like the theme of titles and history. How these titles can outlive us, how they can become something that we aren't as time passes, and this theme is especially shown in Trespasser, the ending DLC of Dragon Age Inquisition, where history is shown to be very skewed. I can't help but wonder how in the Veilguard they are going to address the Inquisitor and how their story has shifted within the 10 years as time has passed, and I wonder if they'll end up being a hero or a villain in people's stories. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please comment and do all the YouTube things. If you want to see more of my Dragon Age takes, please like and subscribe, and I'm going to be going through this phase for a bit because that's all I've been playing lately. And I'm also going to try and read everything. This is truly going to be my Dragon Age summer. If you hate any of my takes, please let me know. I love the engagement. But if you annoy me too much, you will get blocked. I love blocking people in the Dragon Age community. But I also love the Dragon Age community. Thank you for keeping this game alive the past 10 years, and I love your art. I love everyone who is writing, and continue to do your thing. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.